Hello and welcome to Awakening with Brahma Kumaris. In the past few weeks, the world has seen an unprecedented challenge. Challenge not only on personal circumstances, but something that has impacted everyone, including the global economy. Governments, people, NGOs, wherever we see, there is a challenge that we are dealing. Some of the politicians of the world have gone on to say that it is a health war. As much as we understand the challenges that we face, there is very little that we have prepared ourselves internally to face this. In these challenges, there are additional challenges of racism, of hatred, places where real news was important. Fake news has also become a part of the communication. During all of these things, where do you stand? Where do I stand? Where do we as people stand? Today, we have Brahma Kumari Sister Jayanti with us. She is the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris, and she has dedicated her life to the spiritual upbringing of people. Really welcome to the show.
Thank you.
As we understand, in the past 2 weeks, a lot has changed. And many people today question themselves on where they stand. Often there is a lot of confusion. In certain cases, there is fear. And in worst case scenarios, there is panic. So how do you see this transformation that has come in, and how should people respond to it in general?
One of the things that I see happening is that there's a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation that's being put out. And so I think that maybe the first step would be to restrict myself to checking what I'm hearing and seeing in terms of news or information to reliable sources. In this case, it's a health issue, and so WHO is the reliable source of information. Your own country's government will also give you reliable information that you can trust. And of course, then there's all sorts of gossip stuff that goes around. I know that there's conspiracy theories that are going out. And so do I believe those? Do I want to believe those? Do I want to spend my time looking at all that stuff? I can't go outside maybe, and that's true in many, many cities of the world. And probably it'll become more and more the case across the globe. But if I can't go outside, well, let me try another journey. Let me try going inside. And I don't think many people have tried that. And when I go inside, maybe what I find is that whatever is going on outside is actually started within. And there's a confusion, there's a turmoil, there's a disease that's within that's not allowing me to experience my own natural goodness. We are all interconnected as a human family. You might have to isolate yourself physically, but on an inner level and on an energetic level, we are all definitely connected, which at this time is a wonderful thing, because whatever are the experiences people are having in one place in the world are also actually the experiences of people in another place in the world. And this goes beyond race, beyond religion, beyond gender, beyond all of these things. And so we are in a situation that we're facing together. And maybe the planet is telling us, just see what you've done to the world around you. And why is this happening? And so I'm taking it as a time for reflection, a time for us to go inside and see what's going on within, and to see what change I can bring about inside, so that then externally we try to create a purer environment, a happier situation in which we all learn to live together as a family. So I think that the spiritual response is a very important one at this time. To keep myself strong and stable within and free from fear, so that I can also help others become free from fear. With happiness in our hearts, the immunity in our body actually also rises. So it's very important to keep hope in our hearts, keep our hearts very light and happy. And yes, the illness has come, the illness will go, nothing stays the same forever. And yes, it may take a lot longer than we anticipate, but I think we can come out of this particular cloud much happier and with a deeper understanding of what human life is about.
When you were saying this, Didi, there were a few things that came to my mind. First is there are people who are spending time in quarantine. Some have chosen themselves and some have been mandated by the governments or health agencies. At this moment, many people are compassionate towards them, and at the same time, because of the regulation of social distancing, people have also emotionally distanced themselves from we as humanity, as a family. And for this reason, certain people feel that hurt and pain of being considered out. So where should these people look for hope? Should they themselves create that hope within them? And if they should, how would they do it?
I know that spirituality offers hope. And yes, someone else may bring me a message, but it's only when I myself begin to go on a reflective journey within and see what is the power of the spirit that lies within, that I'm able to emerge the hope that is there within me. One of the aspects of hope is that there'll be a better future. Things are not so good now, but things don't carry on in that way forever. There's always momentum, there's always change, and so there'll be something better that lies ahead. And if, for example, I'm supposed to be 2 weeks, whether mandatory or self-chosen, what is it that I need to do in those 2 weeks? It's not just being cut off from the world out there, but it's an amazing opportunity. At least I would see it that way. Because when else am I going to have the time to be with myself? We are so dependent on external company that we're constantly seeking that, and that's not in our capacity to determine. Maybe I have good company, maybe I don't. But what I can always do is have an inner dialogue with myself. When was the last time that you spoke to yourself? And you spoke to yourself with love and compassion. Compassion from the others is important, but that's another story. Do I have compassion for myself? Am I going to allow myself to be dragged into self-pity? And am I going to waste my time and energy thinking, woe is me, why me, it's always me that gets into trouble? No, it's an amazing opportunity for me to be with myself and to get to know myself better. And I'll probably see two sides to myself. Firstly, probably I'll see all the things of hurt and pain that are bothering me. But let me just go on that journey and go deeper and deeper and deeper inside the original being that I am. The spark of light, the spark of consciousness that lives here in the center of the forehead, the soul itself. And as I journey inside the soul, I begin to discover the beauty of the soul. I discover peace and purity and love and truth and happiness. I discover these amazing treasures that are there within. So if I take it as an opportunity rather than a punishment, then I can definitely take a huge amount of benefit. But on another level, how can I help them globally? And this is where meditation comes in.
Mm-hmm.
If I stay in the awareness of my eternal identity and I connect with the divine, what I'm doing is drawing from the infinite source of love and peace and joy, all of those qualities. And at that moment, I'm just the instrument. And those qualities are reaching out to whoever is ready to receive that. And so God's light and love and blessings are available to all of us. I just have to choose, do I want to stay connected with that divine being, Or am I quite content to live my life on a superficial level and do things that I'm doing as I've always done? And in that case, then, I really won't have the possibility of increasing my compassion and widening my heart. In India, of course, the word corona has gone around everywhere now. It's in everyone's language. But the word karuna means compassion. And so from being upset with the coronavirus, maybe it's come to teach me the lesson of compassion. And if I think about it in that way, and I allow God's love to open my heart so that I can be filled with love and compassion, then I can be an instrument to share that with others around me. So I think the spiritual response is something that keeps me strong and healthy and happy. And in this way, I can be a part of the solution. If I allow myself to get affected by fear or anxiety or worry, I'm part of the problem. So what do I want to do? Do I want to intensify the problem? It's already big enough. But I can carry on worrying, but that's what will happen. I'm intensifying that energy. Or I can say, well, maybe let me step up above. If I stay just on the physical dimension, then I'm seeing the statistics, it's growing exponentially. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There's a lot of questions and uncertainties. But if I rise above the physical dimension to the spiritual dimension, and I'm not ignoring life on the physical plane, because I, the soul, have a physical body, and that makes me a human being. It's soul and body working together. And so I, isolated as a soul, I'm not going to be able to do anything. But I, the soul, in the context of the body, can do an amazing amount. And so just to tune the consciousness to a higher level, so that in the awareness of soul, I'm connected with the divine. And the divine is able to give me all that I need, but it also extends out to everybody else around me. So I think that really is the call of the time. That is what time is now calling us to do.
When you say these things, it appears easier to do because for many people who are working at home, who do not have an opportunity to go outdoors, whether imposed or chosen, they might want to do something like this. They want to be part of solution. But many of them have not been meditators. For them, this is the first instance maybe where they have been put into a position where they are supposed to face the time that they have. All this while, people were busy with doing one thing or the other. And for a non-meditator, for a person who doesn't have a spiritual understanding, it might be a scary picture to look at, to not know where to begin and where should it lead me to.
If you think about it, where does everything begin? Whatever has been amazing that's happened in the world, or just even good, or not so good, or even actually very bad. Everything that's happened in the world has happened through the power of the mind. First, the thought comes, the thought grows, and it becomes bigger, and I start talking about it. I convince a few people, it reaches many people, and you have a whole movement, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So everything begins in the mind. And what's happening now is that people are affected hugely by fear, and it's actually not called for. Yes, the virus is very, very infectious. That's a reality. It's very contagious. And so I think that the fear element has taken over, and there's a panic that people have been struck by. Can I turn it around for myself? And if I can turn it around for myself, I can do the same for my family, for my colleagues, for my social circle. And so, in fact, I can help many, many people around me if I'm able to help myself. And to help myself, I need to start looking at the quality of my thinking. And it's not easy, because you catch one thought which is a critical thought, because it feels as if at the present time in the world, rather than appreciation and gratitude, there's more criticism. It happens on a human level, it happens on a professional level. So that's the way things go at the moment. But if for myself, I say, can I find what is good in this situation? Can I find what is good in this individual? And keep that in my awareness rather than the blame game in which there's always complaints and moans and groans. And it's a changeable world. Nothing's going to be perfect. And even if it is, it's there for a moment and it changes again. And so let me keep the quality of my thoughts in a very pure and positive and elevated level. See the goodness. And if I can keep that in my awareness, then yes, I can bring about a change in my own feelings. My thoughts lead to feelings. And so I can become the master of the self and learn to change the quality of my feelings. And so that's totally up to me. It doesn't depend on the circumstance or on the people. It depends just on me and me alone. And yes, of course, I need a little bit more information.
A little bit of help from people.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this isn't an advertisement to learn Raj Yoga, but it's an invitation. And why I say that is because we don't charge for any of our activities, whether it's one-to-one or within a group or online. Our courses, our introductions, our lectures, A to Z, everything is free. And so just for people to understand, where are my thoughts coming from? Have I ever asked myself this question? Where are my thoughts coming from? 3 people. And 3 people look at the same situation, and the 3 people will report back to you very different versions of the same story. And so who do you believe? They're all right. They're all speaking the truth. But each one has looked at it from a different perspective. And so it's not that they're spinning stories or telling tales. They're right. But I need to be detached enough to know that they're coming from their own subjective experience. And people say, what about being objective? Well, actually, nothing is objective. You know that now science has proved that. The very fact that I try and experiment with something and I think I'm detached, but because of being an observer of what's going on, I am involved in what's going on. And so I can never be just totally detached and be an observer. Usually we're always subjective. And so when I look at myself, can I at that moment say, can I elevate the quality of my thinking so that my thoughts can now give benefit to the world? But also, can my thoughts give benefit to the people I'm closest to? At times, it's easier to give benefit to the world and forget about the people who need help right in front of me. Yeah. And so important that I focus on that and I help those around me. Let me help myself first by, yes, following all the rules and regulations that have been prescribed, the washing of hands, the sanitization, all the things that we've been told by the medical people are all correct. So nothing can replace that. So that has its own compartment. Let me comply with that. The government rules and regulations, yes, in order to be a good citizen, in order to benefit from whatever the government is doing for me, and they're doing a lot, let me again do what I need to do by complying. But then the third thing is totally me and me alone. My spiritual consciousness, my awareness, and how I interact with every individual that I meet.
One thing that I wanted to ask Lily was about grief. There are people who are grieving, and there is a sense of loss that they are feeling at the moment. So how do we cope up with that sense of loss?
Okay, it is a time in which we're facing a huge amount of loss. It may be the loss of a loved one. Let me send them good wishes to help them on their journey. People may or may not believe, but I believe definitely that within this physical body, this chariot, the driver of this chariot, the inner being, the soul, is immortal, eternal. And I think 75% of the world's population would probably agree, because they have some sort of faith or another. And so if I'm aware of that, then I know that that person, that personality hasn't disappeared forever. That soul lives on and continues its journey. And my thoughts and my feelings today can reach them. It's normal to grieve, but if I allow it to continue in a state in which I'm disempowering myself and I'm not doing what I need to do for other members of my family, I need to be strong. I need myself to be able to move on and do what I need to do in life. And so at that moment, I'm not forgetting the ones I have loved, but what I'm doing is remembering them in God's presence so that God's light and love reaches them. In traditions, in different ways, we honor the departed ones with some symbol of light, whether it's a candle in their name, whether it's a diya that we put on, some way or another. It's a symbol of the light of the soul. And so let me add light by pouring in oil. So let that light continue to burn and that flame stay alive through my remembrance in God's remembrance. If I just remember them as my mother, father, etc., then that possessiveness and grief is one of great pain. But if I can see them as beautiful beings who played that role of mother and father, but now they've ended that story, but the soul continues. And so let me send them thoughts of God's love and peace. And so that's a very important thing that I can do. In terms of financial loss, every government is dealing with it in the best way that it can, according to the resources that it has. But from my perspective, I know that if I'm honest and I'm ready to work with integrity and honesty, there'll always be a door that opens that can give me enough to be able to manage myself and the needs of my family. And so I have to check, am I totally honest inside? And if I am, drama, life, nature will support me and keep me moving in the right direction. It might not be a life of luxury, but that's okay, because I've seen that when illness comes, it's not luxury that you want. It's a breath of oxygen that you need. Yeah. Luxury has nothing to do with the situation at that moment. And so can I use these challenging circumstances now to see, can I manage without? I'm not talking about being a recluse that leaves the family and goes off into the jungle, but I'm talking about living at home, but simplifying my needs. And actually the reality is that when it comes down to the crunch, there's not a lot that we need. We want a lot, which is very different. But maybe this crisis has come to teach us that it's important to simplify, because we've forgotten that we've been taking and taking from the resources of the world, and we haven't given anything back in return. And so am I ready to at least give respect and give love to nature around me? Am I ready to support nature by not taking more than what is essential out of nature? And so these are the questions that I need to ask myself, and then I'll be able to deal with the scarcity that's around me. That in my inner state, I'll feel that abundance of love and peace reach me.
Thank you very much, Didi. That was very thoughtful. And I believe the time that we have today and for the next few weeks that we have, that many people are feeling that they have surplus of time and they don't know what to do with it. These are questions that they can think about, and they will find answers, because these answers will what matter for us. On the ending note, if there is something that you would want to tell our viewers and people out there on what should be few things that they should be doing for the next coming few weeks or months' time, what would that be?
I would suggest that you plan your time properly, especially if you're in isolation. Use your time well. Don't start the day thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do all day? But no, make a timetable. And I would suggest that you rise early in the morning. There are no parties that you have to go to, no late nights. So start your morning very early. The morning hours are very, very special, in which the soul can truly feel the presence of God and the connection with God. So start the day with that. Then a little bit of time for spiritual study. Study some material, whether it's online or on paper. And I'm sure that if you keep yourself occupied with very good books on meditation and spiritual thinking, definitely you can keep that. And so morning time silence, next step, time for some spiritual study. And then through the day, again, give yourself half an hour. Do things that you need to do for yourself or for whatever the rest of the time, but every 2 hours, just take every half hour within that 2 hour span for silence, for meditation. And the rest of the time you can study, you can write. When was the last time you were able to write something? We don't even usually pick up a pen and pencil anymore. And so let me write, let me keep a journal of what's going on in my mind through these weeks. So keep yourself very engaged.
Thank you very much, Devi. It was a real pleasure having you here. And I believe that this guidance and help is what people were seeking. And you have answered some of the questions, I believe. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Friends, this was Awakening with Brahma Kumaris. I believe there were more questions that you would like to ask. But if you look at the situations outside, all of us are looking for hope. We're looking for things to do. We're looking for keeping ourselves occupied. But maybe this occupied is not the right word. The engagement that we should seek is the one that has to be personal, the one with the self, and maybe the one with the divine. On this note, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Awakening to a new way of living.
माइंड में भी पुरानी बातें, गार्बेज वाली थिंकिंग।
तो मतलब अगर हमें एलिवेटेड रिजल्ट चाहिए तो अंदर जो जा रहा है वो भी तो एलिवेटेड एनर्जी का होना चाहिए।
जो व्यक्ति दूसरों को दुख देकर प्रसन्न होता है, उसमें दुख सहने की शक्ति नष्ट हो जाती है।
Food is more powerful than any other pill.
मन के कई ऐसे राज जिन्हें हम छिपाए रखते हैं, दबाए रखते हैं या उनके बारे में सोचना ही नहीं चाहते।
And in a way, it sums up what is essential spirituality.
Meditation to me is the method to connect to yourself.
It removes all the pain as if you have dropped a heavy bag. It lifts a burden off your shoulders.
आइए 1 मिनट मेडिटेट करें, अपने मन को आराम दें।
People have to change lifestyle and reduce their carbon footprint.
स्वराज्य से ही भारत पुनः स्वर्णिम भारत बनेगा।
किस्मत, किस्मत कैसे बनती है पता है?